Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Now, in March of 2010, Huntington Beach, California, and New York City police departments would release 120 photos found in Rodney Alcala's storage locker in Seattle, Washington. As even though Rodney Alcala had been tried and convicted for the murders of the women that we have talked about in our previous video, they were certain that the women in the photographs in the storage locker may have been additional victims and were trying to locate them. They would release about 120 photographs and release them to the public. 900 of those photographs they would not release because they were too sexually graphic in nature. After releasing these photographs the first several weeks, approximately about 21 different women came forward to identify themselves. And approximately 6 families would actually come forward saying that they believe they recognize the people in the photographs. This would solve some of the cases, but there would still be about 110 photographs still on this site that police still to this day are trying to solve. In 2021, 68-year-old Morgan Rowan would actually contact Steve Haddle, one of the original investigators on the Tali Shapiro case. There she would inform the investigator that she had believed that she had been attacked by Alcala in 1968. Rowan would further tell the investigator that in 1968 she was 16 and was living in Hollywood at the time. And on this particular night had been on the Sunset Strip where she was approached by Alcala, where she would quickly get into his car as she was told by Alcala that they would be going to an IHOP restaurant. Alcala, as he had done before in earlier cases, would take her to his apartment and would inform her that he was having a party. There he would take her into his apartment and bar the door, where he would repeatedly beat and rape her. Thankfully for Rowan, her friends and family members had noticed what was going on and had a weird feeling about it and had followed him to his apartment, where they would break in to his apartment, which would make Alcala flee the apartment, and they would rescue Morgan Rowan. In 2011, investigators from Marin County were almost adamant that Rodney Alcala would be responsible for the unaliving of a woman, 19-year-old Pam Lamson, who on October 9, 1977, would make a trip to Fisherman's Wharf. She had told family and friends she was going there to meet up with a man who had made promises to taking photographs of her. Her nude body would be found in Marin County near a hiking trail, and she too would be nude, beaten, and sexually assaulted. Unfortunately, on her body they would not find any fingerprints or usable DNA, and unfortunately her body was never charged. But police and investigators are almost adamant that they are positive that Alcala had committed this crime, as it would fit the MO on his other crimes. And in 2016, Alcala would be charged with another murder, and this would be the unaliving of Christine Thornton. At the time, 28-year-old Christine Thornton had moved away from her family to live in Texas, specifically San Antonio, Texas. Now, at the time of the move, she was moving with her lover at the time, and it should also be noted that at the time that she was pregnant. But her and her lover would actually separate ways in Biloxi, Mississippi in 1977, where she was seen hitchhiking and unfortunately was never seen from again. Now, in 2013, Huntington Beach Police Department would release a photograph that they had found from the Seattle, Washington storage locker. Would be a woman on a motorcycle with a yellow shirt, and Thornton's sister would recognize the photograph as her sister, Christine Thornton. It is said that the investigators would find her body in 1982 in Wyoming, but would not be identified until about 2015 when DNA samples were done, and they would also take family members of Christine Thornton's family members to do further DNA testing, to which it would be a match. They would actually question Alcala, who was 73 at the time, but was too ill to make the trip to identify the photograph. So investigators would actually go into the prison to where they would question an Alcala about the photograph. He would deny unaliving Christine Thornton, but would say that he does remember taking the photograph. Investigator would recall that while Alcala was holding the photograph, his eyes would be fluttering as if he was remembering a specific memory. And then all of a sudden, the investigator would say that Alcala would have this very evilish grin, and he would begin taking his finger and tracing over the body of Christine Thornton. There would be at least 3 other women that would be connected to Rodney Alcala, but it has never been confirmed or denied. 20-year-old Cheryl Ann Greenman, who was last seen in Waterville, Washington in 1976, where she would be released from prison and they would actually find a photograph of hers in the Seattle, Washington locker. But her family would quickly connect the investigators and confirm that it was not her. 13-year-old Annette Jean Whitaker, who was living at a foster home at the time, where she was seen walking with an unidentified man in July of 1977, where her body was found a week later fully clothed and she would be propped on her hands and knees. There would be no sign of SA, and she would be stabbed to death. So it can be taken either way, as I don't really believe Alcala was responsible for this unfortunate unaliving, as it doesn't fit the MOs of his other victims, and serial schmillers just have a habit of sticking with a particular type of MO. On February 17, 1978, 17-year-old Joyce Gaunt was found in a picnic area at Seawood Park. Her body would be nude and she would be lying face down with her skull bashed in. And by the crime scene, it was apparent that the teen had been beaten, asphyxiated, and raped, where she too had been identified walking around with an unidentified man on that February 16th. Even though Rodney Alcala would be awaiting his date for unaliving and would be awaiting his sentence for the Smith sentence, he would not see that day, where he would pass away from a heart attack while awaiting on death row. On July 24, 2021, Rodney Alcala was 77 years old. Throughout the last several years, Rodney Alcala would be the topic of multiple true crime series and stories, talking about his actions with the multiple women and his weird appearance on the dating game, which would quickly earn him the nickname title, the dating game Schmiller. Aside from true crime biographs about Rodney Alcala and his crimes, there would also be several films inspired by Rodney Alcala and the crimes that he has committed. Netflix including would actually do a biographical film about Alcala in 2024 called Woman of the Hour. In the film, it depicts several of Alcala's murders and his appearance on the dating game. Personally, I'm thankful that the victims' families would get somewhat of closure for what had happened to their loved ones. But I would also suggest that we go online to check out the photographs that the police still have released. There's about 110 different women that they're trying to solve cases on. Being that Alcala would just randomly take photographs of just anyone, and that there were various different accounts that he did not unalive every single person that he took photographs of, but it had a habit of just taking random photographs of whoever. But it is also very alarming that the fact that these particular photographs would be in a storage locker, and almost 85 to 95% of these photographs would be connected to someone that had gone missing or had been reported unalive. I seriously hope that these families of these 110 photos finally get the closure they